I'm used to the climate, a thing that if man ever found a place to live easy and happy, that Eden is on Puget Sound. Eden is on Puget Sound. That Eden is on Puget Sound. A place to live easy and happy. That Eden is on Puget Sound.
Hello and welcome to the Seattle Files. My name is Chris Allen. I'm your host. Every week I get together with a different local comedian and together we discuss the strange, unusual, interesting, and oftentimes lesser known aspects of our local history. Joining me today is Ian Schempp. Thank you so much for being here, Ian.
Well, it is my pleasure, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Ian is an ensemble member in Jet City Improv. He is the creator of the late night cult hit Fun Bucket. He is also the director of the show Tall Tales, which is going up at Jet City Improv in January and February, correct?
Correct.
Excellent. We're going to tell us a little about the show?
Sure. It's all based on kind of mythology of the Wild West, very much inspired by the Disney cartoons of Paul Bunyan and Pecos Bill that I loved so much as a kid.
Awesome. And that's Thursday and Friday nights at 8 o'clock at Jet City Improv in the U District.
Yes, indeed.
Excellent. How long have you lived in Seattle, Ian?
I moved here in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I moved into my first house in Seattle. I believe it was like September 7th, 2001.
September 7th, 2001. Cool.
Yeah.
And what brought you out here in the first place? Where are you from? What brought you out here?
Well, I will probably say I'm from Tucson, Arizona. But I went to college in Southern California, and then after that, I got into grad school at the University of Washington in Seattle. Mm-hmm. So I moved up here to do that. And then after a year of that, I realized I did not actually want to do grad school and stopped.
What were you going to grad school for?
Mathematics.
Oh.
Yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Lighthearted.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Only takes 7 to 13 years to finish, it turns out.
Wow.
Didn't know that when I signed up.
Do you know much about our local history?
Very little. I know the names because they are the streets,
mm-hmm.
And that's mostly it.
Excellent. And you have no idea what we're going to be talking about today, correct?
No idea. If it happened before 2001, I probably don't know about it.
All right.
Except that earthquake that happened very soon before 2001. I know about that one.
The Nisqually quake?
Yep. That's the
name.
one.
Excellent. Cool. Let's get started.
All right.
Mm-hmm. In the 1880s, there was a boom in Seattle's population. The Transcontinental Railroad had been laid out to the Puget Sound in 1873, and although it terminated in Tacoma, not Seattle, this brought with it hordes and hordes of people to the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, it's a good railroad.
The Transcontinental Railroad?
Well, probably my top 2 railroads.
What's your other favorite?
It's probably just that one.
Just the one, Transcontinental. One of the largest migrations of people came from Scandinavia. Mm-hmm. By 1890, 1/4 of the population of Seattle was of Scandinavian ancestry.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. The Northwest offers a climate and landscape similar to Scandinavian countries.
I did not know that, actually. Mm-hmm. I figured it would be way colder there.
That's what I would think, too.
But now that makes me want to go see it more.
Yeah.
You know what else oddly has the exact same climate as Seattle?
What?
Is Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's the only city out of North America that I've been to, and it turns out to be the exact same climate as the city I love.
Well, we think of Australia as always being hot, which is ridiculous because it's so huge.
Yeah,
it must have many different types of climates.
Well, it has 2.
Hot in Seattle?
Yeah.
So combined with the infamous, the fact that this landscape was similar to Scandinavian countries, mm-hmm. and the infamous Scandinavian work ethic made opportunities on the frontier a perfect magnet for Northern Europeans. It was not uncommon for immigrants to come to the country via the East Coast and simply ask for a train ticket to the end of the line. And in the 1880s, the Pacific Northwest was the end of the line.
Can't get much more into the line than that.
No, we were way out on the frontier at that point.
This is before the Trans-Pacific to Hawaii Railroad.
Yeah, that's which is coming 2132. One such immigrant was a Swede named John E. Bach.
Good middle initial for a guy named John.
It is.
Makes it less confusing what his name actually is.
Oh, Johnny as opposed to Johnny?
Yeah. Is he like John E. Be Good or...
Johnny E. Be Good?
Yeah, Johnny E. Be Good.
Bach arrived in the United States in 1887 and had come to Seattle by 1888. One who knew Bach described him as short, thick-set blonde of mediocre intelligence.
Excellent.
So maybe not one of these industrious, hard-working Scandinavians.
Right, just the dum-dum.
Yeah. By 1889, at the age of 24, John Bach found work at the Claremont and Company cabinet shop, located in the downtown business district at the corner of Front Street and Madison, which is now First Avenue in Madison.
Okay.
Down by Pioneer Square.
I know that place.
Yeah. Front Street used to be called, or First Avenue used to be called Front Street.
Right, the waterfront, I assume.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Exactly. June 6th, 1889.
Ooh, more specific.
It was a beautiful summer day. It hadn't rained in over a week, and the temperature was in the 70s. Bach was working in the cabinet shop with 4 other men. Around 2:30 in the afternoon, he was performing one of his duties, preparing glue.
How much preparation does it require?
Well, glue was made from rendered animal fat.
Uh-huh.
So he would take a solid piece of glue.
Okay, so it's not... We don't have to go back to the killing the animal part.
No.
He already has the pieces of the animal that will be glue.
He's got everything that's rendered to be glue, but glue is in a solid form.
Okay, because
like
that would be a terrible...
You know when you have coconut oil? You know when your coconut oil solidifies and then melts and solidifies and melts when it gets hot and cold?
Sure do.
So it was in a solid state, and you had to melt it down in order to get it to be sticky and be useful.
So you just put it in a cabinet and wait till Sunday.
Something like that. Yeah, well, glue was made from the rendered animal fat, and so we would take a solid piece of glue and you would put it into a metal pot. And then you would put that pot onto a fire and melt down the glue.
That seems like a good process.
It will do it, yep. This was a common practice and would have been performed daily. As he was melting down the glue, he wasn't paying attention, and the glue became too hot. It began to boil, and boiled over onto the open flame.
Here's that mediocre intelligence coming in.
It ignited the pot of glue.
Okay.
So the glue is on fire.
That is an awesome...
We don't need no water, let the motherfucker burn.
Yes.
The glue.
The glue is on fire. I was trying to find that Bloodhound Gang. That's the name of the group. Let's continue.
But that is the Bloodhound Gang is a cover in that song of a previous song.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, I'm learning so much today about Scandinavia and mediocre mid-2000 rap groups.
Since glue was made from rendered animal fat, if it catches on fire, it is essentially a grease fire. Meaning to put it out, you need to smother it.
Right, which I am assuming he's not going to do.
Yes. What is the one thing you aren't supposed to do to a grease fire?
Fuck it.
What is the other thing? No, you are
All
correct. Right. No, you are. Well, I did say I didn't.
I mean, number 1 on my list.
Number 1 is don't fuck a grease fire.
Yeah. I mean, I have a long list of things that it is, I make it my business not to fuck. Grease fires is on that list.
Okay.
I think you're going to go with spray it with water.
Yeah.
Okay, that's number 2.
That's what I was implying. Yeah. It's a list of things you don't fuck or a list of things you don't do to grease fires?
Well, those things overlap.
All right.
Every once in a while.
In the Venn diagram, most things cover the middle ground.
There's a lot of things that you don't want to do either of those things to. So, grease fires is one of them.
Well, he did that. He threw water on it. He didn't fuck it.
No.
He threw water on it.
Well, good.
In Bach's own words, quote, I cut some balls of glue and put them in the glue pot on the stove and went to work about 25 feet away near the front door. After a while, somebody said, look at the glue. Another fellow, a Finlander from New York, then took a piece of board and laid it on to smother the glue, but the board caught on fire. Then I run and took the pot of water to smother the fire and poured it over the pot of glue, which was blazing up high. Then I throw the water on, the glue flew all over the shop, into the shavings, and everything take fire.
Oh, shavings.
Shavings.
Yeah. That's a good thing to keep near the hot glue.
Well, it's a cabinet shop.
Yeah.
They're working on...
I guess where else are you going to put it?
You're going to get a lot of shavings making cabinets.
Also, probably the first time I've heard the phrase, look at the glue. Just used in excitement, I guess.
Yeah. Not something that's very common.
Yeah, since the invention of like glue sticks that are purple, I bet it happens more often now.
Yeah,
my kids are really into glue sticks that are purple.
Are they?
Well, you get to see where the glue is, and then you stick the things together.
That is exciting.
Yeah,
that also probably prevents a lot of glue going to places that you don't want the glue to go.
Right, or at least you know that it's there now.
Yeah. Another employee of the shop, Mr. Kittermaster, is quoted as saying to the Seattle PI, quote, as I turned to look back, it was blazing right up, and I saw Berg, he must got the name wrong, Berg,
Oh, okay.
sees a pail of water to throw upon it. I shouted for him not to do it, but the ignorant Swede seemed excited and danced about with the pail before he dashed the water.
Is this the Finnish guy from New York?
This is not the Finnish guy.
Okay.
No, this is there's a fair amount of whatever happens, whatever's a large immigrant group coming in, everybody who's already there that has all this anti-immigrant sentiment. So there's already a lot of kind of rhetoric being anti-Scandinavian rhetoric bouncing around Seattle at this point.
Right, because they forgot that they were there last week.
Yeah, exactly.
They came here in 1888, and now that's 1889. Those damn Swedes.
Yeah. This is 1889. Seattle was founded in 1851. Like Seattle is,
so there's like
is very
generation.
young. Seattle became a city in 1869. So this is really 20 years into Seattle being actually a city, and people are like, "Get out of my! I've been here for so long. This is." And before the white settlers even got here in 1851, there had been natives living here for about 12,000 years.
Yeah, well, good on the PI for being there so early, though.
Yeah. Well, the PI was a combination between the Post and the Intelligencer. It was two newspapers that joined together. That's why it's called the PI. I don't know when exactly that happened. It probably would have happened after 1869, but before 1889, because this is the PI.
Yeah, and now it's just called SeattlePI.com.
Oh, because print news is
Burn.
dead.
Print news.
Yeah, podcasts are the way of the future.
That's how you get your news history.
Kiddermaster goes on to say, I rushed to a corner to get my coat, intending to throw it over the burning glue and keep the air out. But the instant water touched the material, everything in the shop was in a blaze, and the smoke was so dense that I had difficulty to get out. Kiddermaster got Bach's name wrong in his interview with the Times, calling him Berg instead of Bach.
Right. Well, Swedes, they all sound the same.
God,
Their names.
Mm-hmm. The fire splashed all over the cabinet shop, which was filled with loose lumber, wood shavings, and turpentine-soaked rags.
Man, this is a trifecta of awesome places to have hot things.
Yes, yeah. Well, safety regulations probably weren't as stringent.
Or existed.
Yeah. The 5 men working in the cabinet shop managed to get out. The fire quickly spread from the basement cabinet shop to the rooms above, which contained a paint shop.
Oh, not children.
No, not children.
I was just waiting for...
No, not children.
Turpentine-soaked orphans.
The paint shop was also full of highly flammable materials.
I guess that, second best.
Although I don't know if anybody working in these shops were orphans. Possibly, yeah. So
they were immigrants. How would you know?
Mm-hmm. Everyone made it out of the building, and onlookers called the fire department.
Mm-hmm. Good for them.
The fire department arrived.
Good for them.
Seattle had an all-volunteer fire department.
But it's not a for-pay one. It's they did the job without having to be paid?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Non-paid fire department.
Because there was that whole thing where there was a time where fire departments, you had to pay them to put out the fire.
Oh, for-profit fire departments.
After they got to your house.
Yeah.
Which was on fire. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. We didn't have that.
Right. No, this is just a straight-up volunteer fire department. These are people out of the goodness of their hearts who work other jobs and are volunteering to be on the fire department.
Good for them.
They are led by Fire Chief Josiah Collins, who was out of town in San Francisco attending a firefighting convention.
I'm glad that those existed even that far back.
Firefighting conventions?
Yeah, I mean, just...
Or irony.
Oh, well. Conventions in general. And irony. I'm glad we've had it for so long.
Mm-hmm. The city had fire hydrants, so they hooked up the hoses to the fire hydrants and started spraying down the buildings. After only a few minutes of this, the water pressure failed. Attaching multiple hoses had depleted the water pressure and slowed the streams to a trickle.
Okay, that makes sense. I can get behind that.
Yeah, low water pressure. That's why you're not supposed to, in the summertime, turn the spray... in cities, they open the fire hydrants to spray the water out. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, no, because I lived in the suburbs all my life.
Well, you've seen videos of New York in the 70s, right?
Yeah, which I have to assume are correct.
Incredibly accurate, yeah.
Things happen. I saw a Son of Sam.
So Josiah Collins, the fire chief, had warned in an editorial on May 27th of that year, a mere 10 days before the fire, Quote, "It cannot be gainsaid that in the event of a general conflagration covering a block or more, but that the present water mains would be inadequate to furnish the large number of streams that would be required."
10 days before this
10
happened.
days before this happened.
And no one is calling bullshit on this guy. Like, he totally set this fire to get better water pressure.
He's in
for
San
his
Francisco.
fire. Yeah, convenient.
Oh, it's convenient.
Convenient alibi.
So you think it's a conspiracy theory?
Yes.
That Josiah wants that sweet
Water
pressure money? And so he lit a fire?
No, I think he doesn't care about the money. He just wants the water pressure.
Oh, yeah.
He's a pressure fanatic. He loves it.
Yeah.
And this is the way he chose to get it.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Josiah
Collins.
whatever your last name was.
Yeah. No, so he set this whole thing up in order to get increased water pressure for his fire hydrants.
Yeah, and I don't see any of that water pressure in my shower.
First, you get the become chief of an all-volunteer fire department, then you get the fire pressure, then you get the women.
See, Collins is what they based Scarface on, I have to imagine.
There were a lot of rewrites,
yeah,
but eventually...
I mean, Josiah Collins doesn't sound as good as Tony Montana.
Right, yeah, you change names as you revise scripts.
Exactly.
That's exactly.
And then they're like, oh, let's do this in Miami, and whatever. We all know it.
And instead of, horses and buggies, it's cocaine.
Yeah.
And, it's Scarface. It's essentially Scarface.
Copy-paste.
Mm-hmm. The company of firefighters attempted to take pumps to Elliott Bay to pump out seawater, but the tide was out.
Oof.
And they were unable to reach the pumps and get the water from the bay to the fire. The wind was blowing from the north, and the buildings downtown were made of wood and in close proximity to each other. The fire began to spread to a neighboring building, the Dietz and Meyer liquor store, which housed barrels of whiskey.
This is just like if we hadn't overused the term the perfect storm, this is just like a number of coincidences, which I don't believe are coincidences, Josiah Collins, not for 1 second. But like it just happened to happen at low tide with the wind blowing from a certain direction towards a place that stored flammable liquid away from the place that stored flammable orphans. So
started by a guy who just moved to town.
Exactly.
Who just got here and didn't speak English too well.
Hey, where's Josiah Collins from again? Sweden?
I
bet?
I don't think so.
Pretty sure.
I don't think Josiah Collins is a Swedish name.
Well, he changed it when he got to
America. That's how they get you.
It was Josiah Collins.
So it gets to the liquor store, which housed barrels of whiskey. Heated by the fire, the whiskey was brought to a boil in the barrels, and the pressure became too great for the barrels to hold. The barrels exploded and further fed the flames.
Yeah, well, get a fine mist of alcohol. That's just one giant frat party.
Yeah.
Is a guy blowing Everclear fireballs out of... but the guy is a building.
Have you ever partied with a building before, man? Buildings know how to get down. The next two buildings the fire hit were the Crystal Palace Saloon and the Opera House Saloon.
Oh, man, is there anything in this town that isn't hot glue, wood tinder, and alcohol?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay. Is that next?
Well, the next victim of the fire was a tailor shop.
Oh, okay. Full of flash paper suits.
Yeah. The tailor shop was partially owned by F.M. Gordon, who had spent $2,500 for a quarter interest in the shop, his life savings, 20 minutes earlier.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
He's
like the ink is not dry.
Yeah, he's signing the paper as the fire is starting, like a block away, unbeknownst to him, saying, "This is, I've worked hard all my life, but this is gonna."
See, this is why we have Twitter, though. This is why we have Twitter. Like, before I sign this contract, let me check real quick. Hashtag is Seattle on fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or whatever situation.
Yeah.
Might.
Doth Seattle burn now? Or whatever.
In Elizabethan Seattle.
I overshot. I went too far back.
You know what? You can never. It's charming. The farther back you go, the more old timey. It's just more charming.
There's a tipping point though. Seattle burn. No, I went Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, a little bit. I was trying to figure it out, but there it was. It was Schwarzenegger.
So the fire continued to spread south, and the crowd of onlookers began to mock the firefighters.
Oh.
Mayor Robert Moran took command of the firefighters away from acting chief James Murphy because Murphy was quote unquote distraught and was deemed unable to control his men.
Okay. Not because he was, like, trying to save the alcohol by drinking it or anything.
No, he was just not equipped to handle.
Right.
He wasn't a brave, exactly, leader of men.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mayor Robert Moran's plan of attack: dynamite.
Blow the fire up.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, essentially, the fire was burning too intensely and had grown too large to be put out. So Moran's plan was to contain the fire, to demolish the buildings in the fire's path, thereby cutting off its fuel supply and keep the fire from destroying the entire downtown.
So taking the large buildings that are hard to burn and blowing them into small pieces that are easy to burn.
You're a smarter man than Robert Moran was.
You know what? I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt, like maybe this is one of these weird physics things, and like the explosion causes a weird vacuum that puts out the fire. But
in itself, it's not a bad idea. That's a big forest fighting technique.
Right.
Do smaller controlled burns or to dig out areas, and so it's a way of containing the fire. It's not inherently a bad idea.
No.
But in this instant, it's a very bad idea.
I mean, I would be on his side if he'd like dug a trench a street wide, and now the fire can't traverse this trench as easily. Yeah. Okay.
He ordered a block of buildings destroyed. The crowd of onlookers cheered as the wooden structures went up with a mighty blast.
Bet they did. I mean, I would.
Yeah, because fuck yeah, right?
Yeah, because explosions.
The explosion simply created a large, loose pile of lumber. And the fire easily passed over it. Business owners removed everything they could from their buildings. Profiteers sprang into action and inflated their prices to a ridiculous degree. Hiring a cart to haul your goods away could run as much as $500 for a half-mile ride.
That's $1,880.
Multiply that by about 40.
Yeah.
And that's what it would be today.
Oh my god, yeah.
So math major, what's...
$20,000.
$20,000?
$20,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, man, capitalism.
The fire spread to the wharf and burned Yesler's sawmill.
I know that guy.
It hit Trinity Church, which one of the firemen later commented, "It was so ugly, the fire would have been a failure if that tower had been left standing." As the fire continued to push south, it hit Fry's Opera House, which was arguably the most stunning building in Seattle at the time. The firefighters fixed their attention on saving the structure, but in order to angle their hoses to the Opera House, they had to run a hose over the fire. The hose melted in the heat.
Yeah, okay.
Because that's what happens when you put things on fire.
Well, right. What are hoses made of at this point? Do we know?
I'm not sure exactly.
It doesn't seem like rubber is a thing that they would have to make hoses out of.
I don't know. Some kind of textile or synthetic
like
material.
Yeah, maybe like a harsh cloth or something, I would think. Something real, stiff-ish.
Yeah. It's flammable, whatever it is.
Well, or at least meltable.
Yeah. So culture-loving citizens ran into the burning building to save the scenery and the furniture from the Opera House. And they were successful.
Oh, good.
Yeah. They took a majority of the valuable furniture to a vacant lot near the building.
And they sold it for money.
Close.
Oh, okay. They burned it for warmth.
The furniture was caught by sparks emanating from the Opera House and burned as well.
Oh, such good intentions, though.
Yeah.
All right, I'm with them.
They did keep that furniture alive for another 10 minutes or so.
You know what, though? They kind of deserve it for mocking the fire department.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a dick move.
Yeah, yes, it really is. I've heard, I was never able to find this document anywhere, but I've heard that some people, the fire has been burning for so long, went home, packed lunch, and brought their lunch back and eat their lunch.
To watch the fire.
Exactly,
yeah.
And make fun of the firefighters and jeer them.
This is TV at this point, right?
Like, what if I could put this in a box and broadcast it all over? I'll be rich! Yeah. And Pete and Farnsworth was sitting there.
And then they just started lighting fires in boxes, and it didn't work.
It didn't, it was, they needed a beta test it. The fire reached the courthouse, where a murder trial was in progress.
Wow, this will be a quick and speedy judgment.
Judge C.H. Hanford refused to stop the proceedings, even though the town was burning down. The roar of the fire was audible for miles, and smoke was billowing into the courthouse from the windows. Reluctantly, the judge called a recess, then asked the jury to stay and try to save the courthouse from burning down.
Remember that part where I said we're not going to leave? Yeah, we're going to leave, but you guys aren't.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are going to take my gavel.
Do you want to be dismissed with the thanks of the court? Then stay and help the court. The jurors formed a bucket brigade to the bay and saved the courthouse.
Wow, to the bay.
To the bay.
That's a long bucket brigade.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
I use the courthouse in the same
It's relatively
place.
close to the bay.
Oh, okay. Not in the same place.
All of this is relatively close to the bay.
Right, because Seattle is.
Oh no, it's up. The courthouse is now on what? Fifth Avenue?
Yeah.
No, it's down. It's down farther.
Okay,
it's down farther. I think it's on Second or Occidental at this point. I'm not entirely sure, but it is closer. Yeah, it's closer to the bay than it is today. Telegraphs were sent to all major towns and cities in the vicinity, from Portland to Victoria. Writer Julian Hawthorne, who was in Tacoma at the time, wrote, quote, "Standing on the fateful day, June 6th, 1889, it was the lot of the writer to see the clouds of smoke rising nearly 30 miles away, that hung like a pall over the business portion of the Queen City's busiest mart of trade."
Wow. This is really like the Mount St. Helens of its day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then some. Police Chief Butterfield.
Sorry. I love any name that has butter in it. Because he can only be a fat guy with a giant mustache. Like he can.
That's what I was picturing too.
He can only be an enormous man with a mustache and a waistcoat, and there's a pocket watch in the waistcoat, and maybe he wears a derby sometimes.
And only the top couple of buttons are buttons, and the rest of his coat kind of opens up.
No, except but the bottom button is buttoned, and the top three are buttoned, but the ones in the middle he doesn't even know are not buttoned, or they exploded years ago.
Police Chief Butterfield swore in. Police Chief Butterfield.
Yes, all right. We're making it through this. Police Chief as well.
Police Chief, yeah.
Yep.
He swore in 100 special officers to stop would-be thieves and opportunists who would use the chaos to loot and pillage. Store owners frantically dragged their goods out from the wooden stores into the street, only to see their goods catch fire and form bonfires in the middle of the road. Mayor Moran quickly organized all the men he could to carry valuables from the stores to the docks where they would be safe from the fire.
Or so he thought.
Ship captains loaded the goods into their vessels and backed the ships into Elliott Bay.
Which was on fire.
They backed it into the bay in time to watch the wharves go up in smoke.
Okay.
So they did manage to get their ships out to the bay, yeah. The wharves went up in smoke, including Henry Gessler's sawmill, which they saw go up, which had been a cornerstone of Seattle's economy almost since its foundings. Brothers Albert and Abner Keene were attempting to save their goods on one of the docks when they became trapped by the flames. They threw together some mill lumber to make a makeshift raft and paddled into the bay, paddling north of the fire to the Belltown area. It was now 4 p.m. The fire had been burning for an hour and a half.
And, wow, all that destruction in an hour and a half.
An hour and a half, yeah. Brick buildings were slowing the fire down slightly, but didn't stop it. The fire merely gutted the insides and continued pushing southward and engulfed Gordon Hardware, which had in its inventory 30 tons of shotgun cartridges.
I was waiting for dynamite, but that, it's not as... It's better.
It's better?
It's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a lot of little pops.
The next door was Seattle Hardware, which had 20 tons of shotgun cartridges.
This is a very different hardware store than I am used to.
So 50 tons of shotgun shells between two hardware stores. 50 tons.
Like a shotgun shell doesn't weigh that much.
No, it doesn't at all.
How many to a pound? Like 6, maybe? To a pound?
I'm thinking a dozen. Dozen shotgun shells to a pound? Sounds about right.
I don't know. Yeah, because all I can think about is video game shotgun shells. Like, I'm not sure I've seen a shotgun shell in person, but I know what they look like in Doom.
I haven't seen one in years and years. I haven't held a shotgun shell in my hand in a long, long time.
Yeah.
But even when I was young, I remember them not being very heavy at all.
I guess maybe it depends if it's buckshot or a solid slug.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know. But in any event,
not a gun guy.
50 tons of shotgun shells.
Regardless,
it's a lot.
It's more than 100.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Reinforcements arrived!
Hooray! In the form of flaming men.
Professional firefighters from Tacoma showed up by train.
Oh, man. Tacoma is never going to let Seattle live this down, I assume.
They hook up their hoses to the fire hydrants, and again, there is no water pressure.
Right.
Exactly.
And they're like, did Josiah Collins not do the thing that and everyone's putting their finger against their nose, like, don't mention Josiah Collins. Yeah.
Josiah Collins.
Josiah Collinsburn.
At around 6 p.m., the fire has spread to the Occidental Hotel, which is now the site of the infamous sinking ship parking garage in Pioneer Square. Mm-hmm. So there's a big Smith Tower, and right by that is where the sinking ship parking garage is. That was, at the time, it was the Occidental Hotel.
Okay.
The Occidental Hotel is considered fireproof.
Well, here comes that Titanic mentality.
It burns to the ground.
Right, with people still inside singing Nearer My God to Thee. And rich men pushing children back inside to escape.
And 4 musicians standing on the roof saying, they aren't listening to us. Well, they didn't listen at dinner either. Coal bunkers, which contained about 30 tons of coal, caught fire and continued burning for days.
Yeah, well, that's like, what is that place in Pennsylvania? Centralia? The one that's still on fire?
Yeah, where underneath the entire town is still burning.
Yeah.
Mayor Moran declared martial law and ordered all persons off the street and all bars closed at 8 p.m.
That's a big deal, I assume. Bars closed at 8 p.m.
Yeah, because this is an alcohol-based...
Not anymore. It's all been exploded.
The fire continued burning till 3 a.m. It was never actually put out. It just ran out of fuel and burned itself out. 33 square blocks of downtown Seattle burned to the ground. 116 acres of commercial real estate gone. 10 brick buildings destroyed. 5,000 people lost their jobs. No one died.
Wow.
Not one person died in the fire.
Good for them.
Yeah.
For not being soaked in turpentine.
Yeah, exactly. You'd figure they would be so full of alcohol themselves that they would just burst into flames at the strike of a match.
Slightly too close to the fire.
Almost 25,000 people were living in Seattle, and not one person was killed. In the days following the fire, many deaths were reported, but all were later either redacted as missing person who was then found, or turned out to be unfounded rumors.
So no one was trying to, murder someone and then be like, the fire did it?
There are some stories about people trying to rob banks and getting shot at, but there were no bodies found.
Okay.
No houses were destroyed. Only businesses and some apartment buildings. Okay. Most people lived on steep slopes to the east of downtown, so when the fire got too far out of control, everybody just went home. Sat on the front porch, watched the town burn, and said, well, shit.
Yeah.
This is unfortunate.
At least a long weekend, I guess.
That's a glass half full kind of situation. No work on Monday! I'm sleeping in!
Or Tuesday, or for a month.
Yeah. It is estimated about 1 million rats were killed in the fire.
Oh, well then. There's food at least.
Yeah. Oh, God.
That's a waste.
That is.
It's a waste.
Yeah. Rudyard Kipling happened to be touring the Puget Sound at the time, and arrived in Seattle shortly after the fire. He described it as, quote, a horrible black smudge, as though a hand had come down and rubbed the place smooth. I now know what being wiped out means.
Wow. Those are the big words for someone who wrote extensively about colonial Africa. So.
I never realized how dirty that possibly sounds. A hand came down and rubbed the place smooth. I know what being wiped out means.
Yeah. I'm just tired now. Thanks, God, for the handy.
Well, good thing I don't have to go to work on Monday. For days after the fire, people were on the lookout for the man named Berg.
Because the name's wrong.
Yeah.
They're never going to find him.
Because Mr. Kittermaster had gotten the name wrong in his interview with the Seattle PI.
Yeah, and he is of moderate intelligence, but high enough intelligence to be like, no, that was me. I burned all of Seattle to the ground.
Yeah, no, they did find him.
Oh, they did?
They did find him.
All right.
Yeah. They did find him. He admitted it. John Bach was never charged with any crime. He left Seattle not long after the fire, though no one knows for sure. It is rumored he went to San Francisco. But we don't know.
Was there a big fire?
1906.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think he caused the earthquake. I don't think he caused a 7.8 earthquake.
Well, of course he didn't. That was Josiah.
Although, yeah, Josiah was
Where
in
was he?
San Francisco.
He was down there just years before the largest earthquake known to that area.
Mm-hmm. So, coincidence?
Probably.
Yeah, but maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Not saying it was Josiah, but it was Josiah.
Ian Schempp has cracked the case. There was such a high demand for labor after the fire to rebuild the city. The year after the fire, the population nearly doubled, from about 25,000 to 43,000. The increase in population was enough to justify Seattle getting its own transcontinental railroad terminus in 1893, making the city grow further and turning it into the city that it is today.
All right. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. At a meeting amongst the city leaders the day after the fire, Jacob Firth of the Puget Sound National Bank said, quote, "The time is not far distant when we will look upon yesterday's fire as an actual benefit to Seattle. We will have a finer city within 18 months. Seattle has sufficient capital and sufficient energy to do in 18 months what other places could not do in years."
Usually I am really down on that kind of... a horrible tragedy is really a blessing in disguise. But you know what? He was certainly right in this case.
He was, yeah.
And he had reasons. I mean, it's because we have plenty of money and people. It wasn't just like, this cancer is a blessing because...
So you're willing to look at tragedy as a blessing if you can know 125 years later that things did work out well?
No, just if you have something to back it up with. Some sort of data. He was like, here's the reasons why I think this horrible thing is actually a good thing. It's not just like, cheer up, person who just found out they have lung cancer. It's really a blessing. Mm-hmm. And then the guy with lung cancer is like, why? And they're like, because if not, you're going to die. Or, I'm just trying to help you out here, Joe. Mm. Sorry, Joe, that you have cancer.
Yeah.
Fictitious Joe.
Fictitious Joe.
He's my favorite Joe.
Fictitious Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Better than all those other asshole Joes out there.
There's a lot of
Better
them.
than Josiah Collins.
Oh, see? It all comes around.
It really does, yeah.
It really does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the story of the Great Seattle Fire.
The Great Seattle Fire.
This is the Great Seattle Fire. This is probably the biggest turning point, arguably the biggest turning point in Seattle's history. The biggest single event that shaped the city.
Well, I'm glad that you chose me to share it with you.
Yeah.
Josiah Collins.
Yeah.
He's probably in Chicago now.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe he is.
He is an immortal vampire moving from city to city, causing tragedy to others. And if you're listening, Josiah Collins, I'm onto you. I am your Van Helsing.
You're going to hunt down Josiah Collins.
Now that I know he's a vampire, it gives me something to do.
Okay. Yeah, it's important to have hobbies.
Well, until the next podcast. So we'll have to schedule in advance because I might be on an international tour trying to find and kill a vampire.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that by Skype.
Okay.
We'll Skype in on your progress for the hunt for Josiah Collins.
He goes by many names, so it could be anything by now.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here,
Yeah,
Ian. Thank you for joining me
on
this. And thank you for listening to the Seattle Files podcast. Once again, my name is Chris Allen. We have new episodes coming out every Tuesday. Subscribe and rate us in iTunes. Like us on Facebook. If you have a topic suggestion, shoot me an email at the seattlefiles@gmail.com if you have something you would like to hear an episode about. Once again, thank you for listening, and I'll be back next week with a new topic and a new guest. 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 Topic and a new guest.